And the first thing that came up was a news article where he was trashing his previous company. And that ended the debrief right there in like a split decision. I just passed my phone around and like, if he trashed them, one day he'll trash us. This is not what we want. So it turns out that as a leader, whether as an IC, a senior IC, or a manager, he's really reliable is not completely a compliment. It means he's good at what he does, but we don't see any spark. 80% of people who get a job, whether it's posted or not, get that job through some sort of networking connection.
Elon Musk calls you again and asks you to lead SpaceX. This time, no coding needed. Will you consider it?
Would I come out of retirement? There's a very few jobs I would come out of retirement for. My most challenging conversation with Jeff was...
Welcome, everyone. I interviewed Ethan 1 month back on my channel, and you guys and girls wanted more. So here we are with part 2 of the conversation in Ethan's YouTube channel. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rajdeep Saha. I'm a principal solutions architect at AWS. I always joke that if you live in the US, you have at least used one of the applications that I architected on AWS. I have presented my work on conferences like AWS reInvent, Summit, KubeCon, and have published several official AWS blogs and courses. But enough about me. Today, I'm going to chat with none other than Ethan Evans. Ethan is a former VP at Amazon, where he started multiple billion-dollar businesses such as Prime Video, Prime Gaming, Twitch Commerce, and more. He has also taken over 2,500 interviews, you heard that right, helped create one of the Amazon leadership principles, have over 70 patents, and currently runs a very successful newsletter and coaching program. As brilliant as Ethan is, he is equally generous and courageous. He generously shares his knowledge via his daily LinkedIn posts, which has become my favorite thing to read with my morning coffee. And courageous he is because he walked away from making $2 million per year to teach others and help different charities. You viewers are in luck. We are going to talk all about it in today's podcast. Ethan, welcome to part 2.
Raj, thank you. Thank you for the beautiful intro. You don't give yourself enough credit, I feel like, because you do these interviews, you have a great channel, you're still working full time while you do that, and you're so upbeat, positive, and happy that it's a real joy to get to come back, because unfortunately, not enough people love their careers. They're unhappy, and that's really my mission, and we'll talk about this some. I know with some of the questions that you want to get into, we'll talk about loving your career and the chance to do that.
That goes nicely into my first question is, you have conducted over 2,500 interviews. What are some good qualities hiring managers look for in candidates?
For any hiring manager, they really have two questions in their mind when they start talking to someone. What they're thinking about is, first, can this person do the job? Do they have the skills? And so they are looking to know your experience, what you've done before, your raw ability, whether you're an engineer and it's coding skills or a finance person and it's analysis. So they're looking for proof that you can do the work they need done. The second thing, though, is they're wondering, can they trust you? Are you going to fit in? Are you going to make their lives easier, or are you going to be a problem? And so they're looking for signs that you're part of their team, that you're part of their clan. When you ask, what are they looking for? Of course, they're looking for all your skills, but an interview is also a chance to build a relationship, to have a two-way conversation, to listen, to share. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out, many interviews are decided by appearance and enthusiasm. And appearance doesn't mean you have to be beautiful or handsome. It just means look like someone who could fit at that company. Now, some people get mad when I say that. They're like, oh, you're telling us to conform. No, but don't purposefully put the interviewer off. This isn't the right time to be aggressively hostile or bring an attitude, which I do sometimes see as people are like, they have to win me over. And as an interview, I'm like, actually, I don't. I'm okay without you. And so don't I'm not hostile to you, but don't be hostile to me. And I see people actually make that mistake where they come in with a chip on their shoulder. And in that case, why'd you come at all?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Sometimes I think like passion for the technology goes a long way. And passion is hard to fake, both in relationships and in jobs. And in tech, things are changing constantly. I have to learn new things constantly. So without the passion for the subject and the tech, it gets very difficult. Like a lot of my students will ask me, what is the highest earning tech domain? Is it machine learning? Is it analytics? Is it containers? I say from experience, 8 years back, I thought I'm going to be a quant. Okay, they make seven-figure salaries, they live high life. But then soon I figured out that I don't have any interest. I found the data scrubbing part very boring, and I also figured out I'm not smart enough. So I abandoned that path. I think that's also important before you decide on a path. At some point in your career, the eye of Sauron will be upon you, and you must draw power from your passion and love for the subject to march towards Mount Doom.
I love it. So it's Frodo heading out his door, or I guess Bilbo, and saying, be careful when you put your feet on the path. You never know where it's going to take you. Yeah, you use the word passion, which I love. I use the word enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, they are completely synonyms. If you don't show your interviewer some excitement,
Yep.
you're not going to get very far, because the interviewer wants someone who wants to do the work.
Yeah.
They don't want to hire someone at any good job anyway who just wants a job. And that's the difference. Is you have to, it may be true that you really just desperately need a job, but you've got to find something about the job that you're interviewing for that you can love and that you can talk about. And so when you ask about, good qualities, technology changes. The hottest technology, take a nap. It'll be different when you wake up. But enthusiasm and the human parts do not change. And that's what you can focus on.
On the same note, what are some bad things should candidates avoid in interviews?
Yeah, well, so great question. One of them I already mentioned, which
Yeah.
is don't come in with a chip on your shoulder. And in general, try not to get in arguments with your interviewers. When I interviewed at Amazon, actually, one of the interviewers said something that was true of Amazon, but I didn't know it, and it shocked me. This is when Amazon only had a website. It was pre-AWS.
Wow.
And he said, well, we don't really believe, I was talking about QA because I had a deep QA background. And he said, well, we don't really believe in having QA engineers. We figure we can always just fix it live. And I was in shock, because I had led QA teams and had been taught that you need dedicated QA. And here was an interviewer who turned out, by the way, to be the bar raiser. Wow. Telling me that this wasn't needed. And I started to wind up basically to tell him he was completely wrong. And then I thought about it and said, I expressed my objection, like, wow, I have a different view. And then I let it go. At that place was not the right time and place to make that argument. What else is bad? Faking it. You're better off saying, I don't know, or I'm stuck. Can you give me a pointer here? You won't do as well in the interview if you ask for a hint, but that's better than like making things up. So if in an interview you get stuck. Now, the other thing people always ask, what are some bad things candidates should avoid? Stumbling over explaining a gap. Mm-hmm. If there's a 6-month gap in your resume, or for that matter, a 6-year gap, you need to know what you intend to say about that, so that when you're asked, you can say it clearly with conviction, not like, oh, that's a terrible, if you get into, shifty eyes and like trying to work around it, just say, even if you have to cover something really bad, I was laid off twice in my career. I had to explain, yes, at my previous employer, we were a struggling startup. There were a number of rounds of layoffs, and eventually I too was laid off. And then you transition and you say, but the good news with that is that gives me a chance to take on a new job in something I'm really interested in. And that's why I'm here talking to you today, Raj. And so I just pivot it right back to how interested I am in the job. And that works pretty well.
All right, second question. This is 2024, so no podcast goes without mentioning layoffs. In the last interview, you talked about how can someone avoid being laid off, but let's say someone did get laid off. So what are some pieces of advice for someone who did get laid off? How can they get back on track?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, just to give you a framework, is read the book, What Color is Your Parachute? And the reason I suggest reading What Color is Your Parachute is it talks about the job search process and different ways to think about it. And it also talks about identifying your passion and how to find companies that match your passion. The second thing I would say, and this book covers this, is you have to treat finding a job as your new job. So it's 40, 50 hours a week of working on that. Now, it's fine to take a week or two of a break or to grieve or whatever. But so much of finding a job is just finding enough opportunities and talking to enough people. And if you work at that 10 hours a week and then get depressed and don't do very much, you're just stringing out what could be, 40 hours a week, 400 hours is 10 weeks, 10 hours a week, 400 hours is 40 weeks. It's the same unemployment. So treat it as a job. And then the last thing, Forbes published this figure in 2023, and I'm sure it hasn't changed. 80% of jobs are never posted. They're filled internally or they're filled through a network. And at the same time, this is a slightly different stat, also from Forbes, but closely related. 80% of people who get a job, whether it's posted or not, get that job through some sort of networking connection. They were internal, they were referred, someone introduced them, they had coffee. It doesn't say what kind of connection, but the point is, you've got to be networking. And I know, particularly for our audiences, which contain a lot of introverts, they're like, oh God, don't make me go to a cocktail party. I'm not saying that you have to love meeting strangers in an airport bar. I know people who do, that like that's their favorite thing. Like, oh, I get to meet strangers today, but that's not me and it's not you. But what you do have to do is be able to talk to other people about your common interests. And so if you need to network with someone, you're searching for what do you have in common? Are you from the same country? Did you go to the same school? Are you from the same province? Have you ever worked anywhere in common? Do you play the same sport? Do you follow the same team? The weird way, this is going to go a little deep for a minute, so buckle up. The weird way our brains work, there was an experiment run, I don't remember where now, at one of the major research universities, and they took boys at a boys' school, and they divided these like high school age boys up arbitrarily. They had them count off 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So in reality, all the people in group 2 had in common was that they had counted off the number 2. But what they found is if they then put the 3 groups in competition with each other and had them compete a little, the members of each group would automatically start forming theories about how being a 1 was better than being a 2 or a 3. Now, this was totally arbitrary. So it turns out if you and I share a sport, or we both worked at Amazon, our brains are wired to see that as, oh, we're from the same tribe. Raj must be a great guy because why? The logic, even though it's thin logic, goes like this. I'm a great guy. I love myself. I worked at Amazon. Raj worked at Amazon. If Raj is not a great guy, maybe that doesn't mean great guys work at Amazon. Uh-oh, that might mean I'm not as great as I think. That's what's going on all in the hindbrain. The tribal brain is saying, oh, he's my tribe. And so you're looking for that in networking. You're looking for that connection. And so that's my deep, like 90 seconds on how to network is you find a connection and make them your tribe. And that's how you get jobs, 80% of jobs.
I love it. Network with people with not just IT interests, but find your group, right? Maybe you are very passionate about soccer, and then you join an online group about soccer and you just start talking about the World Cup soccer that's going to happen in US, and a lot of those people work in IT. So if you make connections, they're going to remember you.
Yeah, I go even further afield. You have your baby Yoda behind you.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, if your thing is Wookiee culture and you think Wookiee culture is the coolest thing, right? It's Bigfoot in space. If
Right.
you think that's the coolest thing ever, there are thousands of people online who agree with you. And people say, well, what can 3,000 Wookiee lovers do for me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, just as you pointed out, 1,000 of those 3,000 work in IT,
Right.
and they work at places with jobs, and they think you're cool. And so they're happy to introduce their cool Wookiee buddy to their boss. And that's why any network, any shared interest can work.
All right. This next question, I'm going to ask you this because I'm married to a therapist for a long time. So you walked away at the top of your game, leaving millions on the table. Why did you? And was that hard?
Yeah, so that you'll probably have to ask me a few variations of this question to get to all the angles of it, because
Mm-hmm.
of course it was hard. Um, it's natural to fear, you put money in the bank, you create a financial target for what you think you need, and it's natural to wonder, well, have you gotten enough? Because I retired at age 50. My mom lived at age 93. So I'm thinking to myself, well, what do I know what's going to happen in 43 years? Like, I need to
Right.
plan, for decades. So there's the financial question. There's the question of, am I making a huge mistake? Will I lose all my meaning? Will I lose my friends?
Right.
But the driving reason I did it is I loved what I did in Amazon, but at some point, I had what I felt was enough money. And then you have to ask, if there's something else you'd rather do, which I can go into in a second, do you just want more money? Because there will always be someone with more money. And by the way, someone with a lot more money, and I've traveled around the world enough. I've seen houses and yachts and private jets. You have to at some point put a brake on your desire for things. Otherwise, you'll be on the treadmill your whole life. So I had to make a decision. Then why did I want to leave? I found I loved coaching and mentoring people. I love building technology and shipping products, and I still do, but I love coaching and mentoring people. And at Amazon, running a big team and a billion-dollar business, I could only mentor so much. I could only teach so much. And
Mm-hmm.
so not a lot of people know this, but I did go to Beth Galletti, who's SVP of HR, and I
Mm-hmm.
asked, and I said, I would like to create like an Amazon university, a way to invest in and teach more people. Would you be interested in that?
Mm-hmm.
And it was not on her roadmap at that point. And so, realizing that I wasn't going to be able to realize my dreams at Amazon, I stepped away to work on a higher calling. Now, I stepped away with enough money, so that was great. But my reason for walking away was to try to help other people get both success and satisfaction from their careers. So most people come to me because they want more success. How do I get promoted? How do I work with this difficult boss? How do I get a new job? How do I get a better job? But they aren't yet focusing on the question of, what will actually make me happy? Why am I working? What is enough money? Will this job that pays well also fulfill me? Now, these are luxury questions. Some people just need to pay their bills first.
Right.
But ultimately, all of us hope to do something we love. And so I wanted to help people with both success and satisfaction. And that's why I stepped away.
By the way, this is very difficult. What you did is you tried to find your why and you put meaning on something which is not just money, because in our society, more money means more success, right? And like for a lot of smart and competitive people, we think like comparison is not the thief of happiness. It is a source of motivation. As long as you are winning, it must be like a thrill when you delivered $1 billion project and you were going, look, I am the smartest VP in the room. right? Was it hard to walk away from that because you know you are good?
Well, I do try, by the way, to share honestly about how good I was and wasn't.
Hmm.
One of the things that put me on this path in the beginning is when I made it to VP,
Hmm.
I started thinking about, should I try and become an SVP? And at that time, there were about 300 Amazon VPs. So I looked around at my 300 peers and I was better than quite a few of them. I could look and see, okay, this person, we all do the same thing, right? It's like if a mountain gorilla fought a tiger, what would happen?
Right.
I look at it and said, I'm better than some of these people. I can take them.
Hmm.
But I also looked honestly and said, there's a few of them here I can see that I'm not in their same league. One of them I often name because I'm not afraid to be honest about it was Peter DeSantis. Peter DeSantis was only a vice president then.
Hmm.
He, of course, now has become one of the senior vice presidents of Amazon, and I could see that was destined to happen. And so I looked at a few people like him and said, okay, well, there's 300 people. Maybe I'm 100th on the list. Maybe I'm even 50th, but
Hmm.
there's only going to be 5 seats, maybe. And I'm not numbers 1 through 5. So that was something I had to face honestly and say, well, it would take a lot of time and a lot of luck. To your point, though,
Hmm.
about is it hard to step away at the top of your game? Once I decided not to compete on that aspect anymore, I had to find new meaning.
Right.
And once I had my eye on helping people, that started to overtake being the best at leadership and even owning big projects and big teams. Because while I enjoyed being good at that, it was no longer part of my mission. And so I think there was a psychological shift where, by the way, when I had already left, I did miss that. I miss it today, the like natural influence that comes from being part of Amazon and having the title. I'm very lucky that as my profile on LinkedIn grows and I was lucky enough to be made a top voice, I'm sort of getting some of that influence back.
Hmm.
But there was a period where I was starting my new trajectory of helping people, but I hadn't achieved much result yet, that it was very hard.
Yeah, and also like I think it's commendable because you were already a VP and you did not want to stay just like the status quo, because a lot of people in your position would have said, "Hey, I don't know, inflation can keep rising. I need 50% more," right?
Let
Yeah.
me let me say a little bit about that real
Yes.
quick. It is true that some of my peers, some of the people I knew, I can't say what's in their hearts of why they're doing it.
Right.
What I can say is they make, the same money I was making, which is now a VP there makes around 2 million.
Right.
And as far as I can tell, they blow it all every year. Now I
Mhm.
say blow it, that's judgmental. They spend it. They have, and it's a great life, I'm sure. Great
Mhm.
restaurants, first class travel, nice homes, whatever. It's just a different choice.
Mhm.
For me, I love the chance to invest in others full
Mhm.
time. Now, many of them would say, well, they are investing in their teams. That's what they're doing. And I honor that. I
Mhm.
just get to do it in thousands of people.
All right, Ethan. Next question. This is your area of expertise. You specialize in helping folks who are stuck in their career. What are your three top tips to get unstuck?
So the first thing is figure out why you're stuck. In other words, at least what are other people claiming why you're stuck? Why is your boss not moving forward? What do you see that other people have that you don't? What do you know that's holding you back? What are you concerned about? Validate it with peers or validate it with your family. Try to figure out, is it a skill you're missing? Is it an interpersonal skill, like more emotional intelligence? Is it opportunity? Your company's not growing. It may even be shrinking. Like, you got to know why you're stuck.
Mhm.
The second thing is, there's an old joke, a very old joke, where the guy goes to the doctor and says, "Oh, doctor, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor says, "Well, stop doing it." Well, if you're stuck, you have to change what you're doing somehow. In other words, some people say, I'm stuck. And what they've been trying is work really hard. And so they
Mhm.
figure, I'll just keep working hard. Well, that hasn't been working. You got to do something different. So figure out why you're stuck, figure out what you're willing to change, because you've got to make some kind of change. And then related to that, I guess my third point would be people have long memories. And so if you've been at a place long enough where you've gotten pigeonholed into being that person that everyone says, oh, yeah, Ethan, he's really reliable. So it turns out that as a leader, whether as an IC, a senior IC, or a manager, he's really reliable is not completely a compliment. It means he's good at what he does, but we don't see any spark. We see, that they're good where they are. We can, and once you get that reputation, it's hard to change it where you're at. It may be easier to start a new reputation with a new set of people. And so if you're really stuck and you've developed this situation, you may need to move somewhere else. Now, if you need a different illustration of what I'm talking about, the analogy is in relationships, right? Romantic comedies and different TV shows will all talk about some poor guy who's stuck in the friend zone. He really wants to date this woman, but they're friends, and she sees him as a friend, not as someone she wants to date, and he can't get out of the friend zone. Well, this is the same thing. The version of the friend zone at work is Raj is really reliable. That's the friend zone. He's the reliable guy that we can put work on and he'll get it done. You got to get out of that. And that sometimes means changing groups or even companies.
Yeah, and I think like you talked about it in one of your posts, that if there's a new opportunity or new challenge, even within the project, volunteer yourself for that, right? Don't be afraid that, oh, that means more work. To change something, you have to do something different. If you have been just doing the same thing and you anticipate some change, that is not going to happen.
If you're stuck and want to get unstuck without working differently or harder, I'm sorry, you're only dreaming.
Thank you for giving the tip. Next time someone says, Raj, you are very reliable, I'm running. Okay.
If that's the main thing they say, well, just think about it. We don't promote just reliable people. We keep them and we give them, the 3, 4, 5% raise.
Right.
But we don't run, right? We don't say like, oh, I know who I want guiding the company, that reliable guy. That's
at the end of the day, all the companies, for good or bad, is driven by revenue. And to grow revenue, you have to bring something else to the table. You cannot just maintain the system. You got to enhance the system.
Yeah.
Cool. So talking about enhancing the system, this guy is a master of that, Jeff Bezos. And any podcast with me, you're going to get a Jeff Bezos question. So what was your most challenging conversation with Jeff and how did it go? Sorry if this sounds like an Amazon interview style question, but that's how it goes.
So my most challenging conversation with Jeff was early in the history of the Amazon App Store. We were doing OP1 and we had big dreams for what we wanted to do at the App Store. It was a small team at that time, maybe 15 people. And we went to him. We had launched the App Store and we went to him with a proposal to add lots more people. We proposed everything you could put in the boat, everything you could get off the buffet, we asked for. We wanted more marketing, we wanted more sales, we wanted a lot more engineers, we wanted field technical personnel. And that was mistake one. It's just like asking for a lot. Mistake number two, though, came when Jeff picked on one of the line items. He's like, oh, this is a lot of people. What are these 5 people in marketing going to do? And my leader in that space essentially babbled through an answer that was full of holes. And you could see Jeff so he asked a second question. Like, we got our one strike that we might have recovered from. He drilled into another area and it was similarly squishy. And he answered, the truth was, we had just asked for everything we wanted and we had not done enough work to be able to really explain what everyone would do. And so this is where it got ugly. And how do we handle it? Jeff said, okay, you've given me 2 bad answers. I don't
Wow,
trust
Jeff
it.
said that.
Yeah,
Wow.
something like it. You've given
Okay.
me 2, you've not been able to answer what these, I've asked 2 questions. You've not been able to explain what these people are going to do. You can't have any of these people right now.
Mm.
What you're going to do is go back,
Mhm.
sharpen your pencil, and come back to me with a list of every person you want. And it has to be in buckets of no more than 2 or 3. I won't make you do it per person, but you can't have groups of more than 3.
Mm.
And then I'm going to go through each bucket with you and tell you what you can have and what you can't. So continuing this tough conversation, we go away and we come back, whatever, a week later. And he sits down with this sheet and he's like, 2 marketers in Europe. No. 2 marketers in the US. You can have 1, and that person needs to cover Europe also. 2 front-end engineers. And he'd read like what we said they were going to do. And he'd be like, okay, I'm going to give you this. 3 back-end engineers. No, you already have 5. Like, it was brutal. Just
Wow.
Jeff auditing. But we had dug ourselves into that. We had gotten ourselves into this problem. Now, this story has a fun and funny ending. This terrible set of conversations where we walked out, by the way, with a pretty reasonable team in hindsight, just not this sort of bloated thing we had asked for. This was the end of November. While Jeff separately was getting ready to launch the first Kindle tablet, not the first e-reader, which was already out, but the first tablet. And he came to us because the tablet was selling really well that Christmas. And he came to us and like 4 weeks later and said, I need the App Store to be global by next Christmas. You have to be in every market and every country. And we said, not possible. Because if you know Amazon's retail architecture, every country is a separate stack and a separate marketplace. And we said, not possible, sorry. And he said, no, what's it going to take? And we said, well, we're going to need a lot of people, a lot more than you've given us. And he said, okay, I can see that. And we said, well, we're not just going to need headcount. We're going to need you to move actual people to our team, take them away from other teams. And he said, okay, I want this badly enough. I will do that. But if I do, you deliver. So what happened was at the time known as the draft. And we made a list of 55 engineers across the company from all groups, and they were all moved into our team to work on this for a year. And our deal with them was, come work for us for a year, and you can go anywhere you want after that. So kind of the punchline of this story is when he was only thinking about increasing the App Store, he was very fairly, but very hard on like the investment. And then it turned to, we saw this ability. The hope at the time was that the goal was to make the world a 2-tablet race. There would be only iPads and Kindles. Now, that isn't what happened, unfortunately, but he thought that was possible. And he wanted the App Store everywhere in the world. And so it went from, you can't have any of these people, to,
Amazing.
I'll take other people's teams. And by the way, there are still a few Amazon VPs, past and current, who have sore spots with me about that, right? Because I showed up like, I want this person, this person, this person off your team. And of course, they were like, I barely know you. Why would I give you those people? And I'm like, talk to Uncle Jeff, right?
I love this
So,
story because this talks about how to earn trust, because trust is so hard to get back, like hard to earn, easy to lose. So, on a follow up, do you have any other advice for people who perhaps failed at some tasks and they need to earn the trust back?
yeah, I've thought about this question a lot. So when you fail, the first thing is you must own it. You can't, you only make it worse if you point fingers. There's a famous early story at Amazon. I won't go through all the details, but in 2005, they had all these problems where they didn't scale at Christmas and there was a login problem. And 2 principal engineers went to work on it. But at the end of it, one of them pointed fingers and one owned it. And the one who pointed fingers was like no longer there like 4 weeks later.
Mhm.
Now I don't know if he was fired or just somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, you know, your future's over here. You might
Mhm.
want to go somewhere else. But you've got to own the problem and your responsibility in it. Then you've got to state a plan. Okay, here's what I'm going to do about it. And then the way you earn trust back is a little at a time. You have to go to the leader and say, I'm going to do this, whatever, in the next hour, if it's an outage, or in the next day, or in the next week. And then you follow up promptly and you show them, you don't ask for 6 months of trust anymore. You shrink the window to the smallest thing you can deliver and show, see, I told you I'd come back with a paper that itemized people in groups of no more than 3. Here it is. I'm back 48 hours later. We've done that. And so you have to re-earn trust in baby steps. And then as you do that a little bit, the leader's like, okay, your big ask was, crap, but now I see that like you heard me and you listened and you're trying to do what I said. I'll give you some trust. And then you have to fix, of course, Amazon, you want to fix root cause. You have to show not just that I fixed the problem, but I learned my lesson. And that's what you're trying to show is not only did I stop asking for too many people, but I learned to dive deep and itemize and show detail. And so I never went into a Jeff meeting again where I didn't have the detail. We do something, an exercise you may be familiar with called hostile Q&A.
Yeah.
Where when you're getting ready to defend a 6-pager, whether to Jeff or somebody else, you sit in a room and say, what are the nastiest questions someone might ask?
Yeah.
And this is not because anyone will ask those, but it's this idea from sports, you practice harder than you will play, right? If in a football match, soccer match, you're going to normally run 6 kilometers, then in practice you run 10. And that way 6 feels easy. And so same thing.
No, I love it. Owning the problem, bias for action, deliver results, also do it incrementally. All right, Ethan, next round, we did not do it last time, but I'm looking forward to doing this. This is a rapid fire question. Okay, so you have no idea what's coming. Favorite Amazon leadership principle?
Ownership, because I helped write it.
Excellent. Okay. You are getting ready to present to Jeff Bezos. What are you drinking while preparing? Coffee, tea, water, energy drink, soda, something else?
So if I'm getting ready in the morning or if I'm at work, I'm drinking coffee. The night before, I might have a whiskey, like just foster contemplation. And we've talked about red wine. So I might have Pinot unless I'm with you, and then I'll have Cabernet.
Right. Good memory. Yes, Cabernet for the win. Ethan, I gotta show you some good Cabernet. What do you prefer as a hiring manager? LinkedIn profile or a Word document resume?
I prefer, in the past, I would have said Word document, but I prefer LinkedIn because it often is live and I can follow it places. I can click through and see your projects if you've linked them or, and I can see what you've written. A story, I know this is rapid fire. I'll tell you, I was once bar raiser on a loop to hire a VP. We were split discussing whether or not to hire. And I Googled him. And the first thing that came up was a news article where he was trashing his previous company. And that ended the debrief right there in like a split decision. I just passed my phone around and like, if he trashed them, one day he'll trash us. This is not what we want. And so I like the interactive, the ability to get more context than just what you've chosen to write on your resume. Go ahead. Next one. I like this.
All right. PC or Mac?
I'm a PC person.
Favorite video game?
Oh,
you were in Twitch, so you gotta have one.
Yeah. Well, the only video game I ever completely beat in my life is super old. It's Joust 2, like the stand-up console. I played it a ton in college, and I could play all night on 1/4, which was a big deal as a college student. Favorite video game today? I probably have to go with World of Warcraft. I love fantasy and the depth and the endless content. And but we could go Diablo, anything. I'm a fantasy guy, right? I mean, which is why we talk about Lord of the Rings so much.
Yes. I love it. I played World of Warcraft for 10 years. I was raiding in a top raiding guild in the world. I was a healer. I still have 25-man hard Lich King kill, #1 in the realm. So I'm right there with you. And I played Diablo 2 all through my college, Sorcerer, and all that good stuff. Love it. Kindle or paperback?
Audible.
Audible. Okay, excellent. All right, I like Audible too.
Yeah, almost all of my reading is listening.
Listening. Okay. I do like the feeling of a paperback, so I can like write on it. I write a lot of notes and stuff. But
If you
yeah,
if you force me to choose, if you say pick, no adding a third option, I would also choose paperback.
excellent. Elon Musk calls you again and asks you to lead SpaceX. This time, no coding needed. Will you consider it?
Yes. What would be hard for me now is him being so erratic. That would scare me. But if you take away that and just would I come out of retirement, there's a very few jobs I would come out of retirement for. The other one, to give you a fun answer, my old boss, Emmett Shear from Twitch, was named CEO of OpenAI for the 72 hours after SAM version 1 and before SAM version 2. And I reached out to Emmett and was like, hey, if you need me, I'll come. Because that's such an important technology and such a world-changing thing that even though I love my life now and wouldn't want a job, some jobs you have to take, and SpaceX is one of those. So what I need, Dave Limp just took the job, but I need Bezos to call me about Blue Origin.
You really want your name in that rocket to the Mars, Ethan. We all know it.
Maybe I want to ride the rocket to the Mars, right?
Okay, all right. If you can have dinner with any person, dead or alive, who will that be?
My answer to that's Jesus Christ for two reasons. One, it's definitive proof that he was real. If I can have dinner with him. And two, that's going to be an amazing conversation. So that one for me is easy.
Okay, so what questions will you ask him?
Oh, wow. Now, I've never thought, you really do have me. What would be, I guess my first question is, why is this so hard? Like, why is finding our place in the universe, why is pain, why is this so hard would encompass, why is there death? Why is there pain? Why is there grief? Like, it's the why. Like, okay, you're here, you're God. I've disproved, or I've gotten past the, is there a God? Isn't there a God? Because you're sitting here. Now, why?
Ethan, as always, it's a pleasure. How can people get more of you?
So I want to answer that in an unexpected way really quickly.
Okay.
People ask me that, and they don't just mean where can they find me, which is on LinkedIn, on my Substack newsletter, on my website, www.ethanevans.com. That's the easy answer. They want more of me as a person or more of any other leader. And the answer there is you need to form a partnership. You need to bring something to offer. You don't have to be an equal to give someone value. And so the people who get more of me, and the way I've gotten more of other people, is to offer them something of value in the relationship, to bring them a service or an insight or my aid or help. And so the people who actually truly get more of me are the ones that are able to bring value, not just to, I'm going to give them value. It's not for free, but they offer something of value. They don't just come and say, oh, do this for me because you're nice. I just get too many of those requests.
Thank you, Ethan, for doing this part 2. I had a lot of fun, and shameless plug, you can connect me in LinkedIn, YouTube, newsletter. We'll give all that good stuff in the description.
Yeah, and everyone who knows me and is watching this because they know me, Raj is amazing. And he does fabulous interviews and content all over the internet. And he's still a living, breathing AWS expert. So there's a lot of reasons to follow him.
Thank you, Ethan. I'm going to steal one line that you say. You describe me so well that I want to meet me. Okay, so thank you.